Management agreements do not say the manager's going to do anything for you. That's industry standard. Really, these big opportunities that they're promising aren't real. In today's music business segment on how to build yourself to be a successful music business for yourself, we're going to be discussing management agreements and what to watch out for. I have been literally going like this all week long because as a real music attorney of 9 years, just this week, I have had a handful of management agreements that are really giving me some inspiration to want to share some stuff with you guys so that if and when you find yourself in any of these situations, you'll know what to do. You're watching this video because you have this dream, right? And you're like, if I had a manager, the manager would be able to take my career to the next level and to be really meaningfully able to help me because they have a Rolodex of all their contacts and they know what to do. They know the music business, right? That's the dream. Okay. So one of the questions I'm always going to ask is, what credentials does the manager you're speaking with have? Meaning, what's their resume for being in the music business, for having represented other artists? Are they artists or bands like you, right? Are they doing the same kind of music? All these things really matter. And then also, where did you meet this manager? So as an attorney, I get the contract for purposes of reviewing the contract and finding the problems, which we're going to talk about today. But then, the first question I always am going to ask is, tell me about the relationship. Because if you just met someone and they're signing or having you, trying to have you, sign a management agreement, I'm always wondering, why are you signing a contract? Why are you solidifying a relationship with someone you don't know? These relationships are so important when it's your manager, when it's your agent, even when it's your attorney. These are like the key people that will make or break your career. So with that all in mind, okay, we're going to talk about a couple of things, including what to watch out for, but then also as it specifically relates to your management agreement, what you need to keep in mind. Because remember, the manager is entitled to 15 to 20% of your income, and that's gross. Okay, that's industry standard. That doesn't seem like a lot when you're not making anything. However, it hurts a lot when you are locked in a long contract with someone who isn't doing anything to help you and you're actually doing all the work. If you happen to be a manager watching this, I apologize because I am throwing you under the bus in this video. Now, you're probably going to learn some things anyway as far as how these deals work, what you should and should not do. But in any case, this is very much from the standpoint of being a music artist. So when I talk about what to watch out for, there are tips that really will help you in many situations. Number one, the bigger the sales pitch, the more you should be concerned. The manager should say specifically what the manager thinks that he or she can do for you. If someone is ever just giving you a general sales pitch, meaning, hey, I think that I can get you a ton of publications, I'm going to get you a PR company, I'm going to get you a great agent. When someone speaks in generalities, be a little concerned, because what they should be saying is, hey, I have Greg who can get you all the shows on the East Coast. He only has maybe a 10% deal. It's all going to be great. Or I have connections with these other publications, and specifically, here are the names. That's the kind of stuff you're looking for, because that means that's the exact stuff that the manager can potentially do for you. Okay, so big promises are always very concerning. Number two, if you've never met the person before, don't sign a contract. You have to go through this courtship period. I had this one guy who was like, no, you got to sign the contract right away. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do anything until you sign a contract. And, I say it's on behalf of the artist that I was doing this deal. That's another red flag. If someone is so eager to get you tied into an agreement and they won't even prove themselves, when really the manager is there to work for you. Okay, so that's a big red flag. Number three, it's okay if the manager is your mom or if it's a family member. And let me explain why. So if you have a motivated, fierce person who is working on your behalf, the great news is that you and that person can learn everything you need to know if you don't know anything. But you can learn everything that you need to know. And having someone that you trust, that's loyal, and that who has your best interests at heart is really invaluable, especially as you continue to grow in your career. And I have an example of one of my artists who did just this, right? So mom became the manager, didn't know anything about the music business, but over the course of a few years, as the project grew, as the artist grew, it went from 0 to now millions, not just in fan following, but in money. And so mom is still the manager, and now they have all this knowledge under their belt, which is pretty cool. Now, having a family member is not always the best thing, okay? Sometimes it backfires because there's complacency and someone's like, oh, I just did this because I'm your sister. I just wanted to help you. And they're not really there to hustle. So that's what the piece you're looking for. If it's your manager in any capacity, family, friend, or whoever, you're looking for someone who's going to really hustle and be a partner with you. Number 4, big, managers who did their thing in the 90s might not be a good fit for you now. So just because someone does have some big, fancy, sexy name on their roster of something they did at some time, that doesn't matter. What are you doing right now? Are you on the ground floor? Do you know the current deal points? Are you familiar with social media? Are you on social media? Like, they need to kind of be at your level. And then number 5, you are 100% responsible for your success, okay? So when it comes to the manager making you a big star, whatever the story is that you have in your head, that story is likely wrong, because at the end of the day, managers really are supposed to like pour gasoline on the fire. They're supposed to come in, give you a little direction, help to connect you with people that hopefully they've already met if they are well connected, and to kind of make some things happen. But they're there to be the day-to-day person that deals with all the headaches, so you can focus on the creative, so you can make the magic. And in return, they get that 15 to 20%. So what I am stressing with this point is just you have to be willing to take on the responsibility for your career. Don't be in a place in your career right now where you're like, oh my gosh, nothing's happening. I've been trying so hard. I just need a manager. That manager is not going to be life-changing. You already have to be in motion for getting yourself out there, right? For growing your social media, for putting out the music. And then you get a team member, like a manager, to come in and help. All right, so now let's give you some real, management agreement tips here. And you guys are going to love this stuff because it's what I'm dealing with every single day. If you are finding this helpful, please be sure give this video a big thumbs up. Number 1, if you are dealing with a new manager who's like kind of green, doesn't have a lot of experience, make sure you negotiate for the manager to only get 15%. Because remember what I said, managers get between 15 to 20. So if it's a more experienced manager, they're going to get 20, and that's fine. Okay. Typically, try to negotiate down 15% if they have less of a track record. Number 2, make sure you exclude certain things from what the manager gets paid for. The way it works is that when you have a management deal, the manager comes in. Manager's gonna get their percentage. Let's pretend it's 20%. They get 20% of everything. It's called gross. So everything that you do in your entire career during the representation term, whether it's TV, film, books, sponsorships, gifts, right? Behind the scenes at shows or whatever, manager is entitled to 20% of all that stuff. Now, if you are running a side business and you're selling like artist courses or you're selling your samples and your beats, manager also gets that unless you specifically exclude it. So you'll see in your management agreement that there's a section that defines the phrase gross profits, because it says manager gets 20% of gross profits. So just make sure you go into that definition, because it'll be this big old section and it'll be like, here's all the stuff the manager gets. And there's usually stuff like if you happen to get, some shares in a company, if you build a new LLC, if you open up a studio, if you get music equipment, manager has 20% in all of that. So for me, I go, heck no, because often, the artist is paying for merch, and then, artist doesn't even get paid back their expenses. So make sure you exclude stuff that the manager should not be getting paid for, which can include things like merchandise. All right, number 3, when it comes to the term, meaning how long the agreement is, typically the manager wants to negotiate for as much time as possible, right? They want to lock you in the contract and say, hey, you're going to be like in this deal with me for 5 years. Heck no. You need to try to negotiate for 1 year. That's it. If it's a brand new relationship, you might hate this person after 2 weeks. You're still going to be locked into the agreement. So try to negotiate it for as short a period as possible, but sometimes you have to fall in the middle. So if the manager wants 3 years, you want 1, you're going to land on 2. So with the term, that's one piece. But after that, there's what's called options. Okay, so options are the ability for the contract to extend, okay, to become longer, to go after 1 or 2 years. So you want to make sure that it basically just says the option is as short as possible. Again, if the option is like, hey, it's going to be 3 years, negotiate it down. It's going to be an option for 1 year. And you really protect yourself this way because, again, we always think things are gonna be great. And they aren't. And I can't tell you, for the hundreds of artists that I have worked with over the last 9 years, how many people come to me with bad management agreements. They're trying to figure out how to get out of it. The reality is that the manager just has to pick up their phone, respond to a couple emails here and there. Management agreements do not say the manager's gonna do anything for you. That's industry standard. Because what would it say? I'm gonna get you to 2 million plays on Spotify. How are they gonna do that? How can they possibly guarantee that? I'm gonna get you so many shows. They're not agents. They're not even allowed to be agents. The actual agreement says the manager's gonna mentor you. So because that's all it says, when the manager goes MIA and hasn't responded to you in a month, and then you call me up, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get out of this agreement. It's gonna be an uphill battle. So that's why we try to make sure that the term of the agreement, so how long you have to be in the agreement, is as short as possible. And then sunset clauses. Okay, so sunset clauses define a percentage that the manager gets after the contract is terminated. This is so great for managers, right? They not only get paid the 20% while they represent you, but typically they're gonna get a percentage of your income for a period of time after they leave you. And for some agreements, I've seen stuff where people are like, for the first year, I'm gonna get my 20% still. So that means you're paying the old manager 20%. And then you're gonna have a new manager come in that's gonna want another 20%. So 40% of your income is out the door. So that's what happens if you aren't careful with this stuff. Just remember that they are not required. You do not have to agree to them. You can say, no, you get your percentage during our relationship, that's it. But if they come back and they're playing hardball, you can negotiate it down and be like, cool. If you want for like 6 months after the relationship, I'll give you 5% or I'll give you 10%. So this is where you really stick in, your heels in, and being strong and negotiating well is really important. All right, so I want to leave you just with a couple of my top tips, okay, just to really think about as you are going through your management agreement. Number one, make sure you actually get an attorney to do a final review of your agreement. It's cool if you are like talking to the other side, you're talking to the manager, you're negotiating back and forth. But before you actually sign it, please make sure you get an attorney, because there's stuff you're not seeing. There's stuff you don't know about. And then what I would also say is stop being desperate. It's okay to feel desperate and to be like, dude, this is the only opportunity I have right now. I don't know when another one is coming along. This manager says he can make me a big star and really help with my career and get my Spotify plays up. Don't do the deal because you are so desperate. I know the feeling. And you're right. Another opportunity might not come along right away. But this guy or gal could be scamming you, and you are about to avoid a really bad deal because you have a bad feeling in your gut, and you got to go with that. So I just, it's so hard the younger that you are when these opportunities come along. And as you get older, you build up kind of this resiliency, because now you see that really these big opportunities that they're promising aren't real. And sometimes you got to get burned to learn that lesson. Again, managers, all they really have to do is say they're mentoring you, pick up the phone, send an email. So that's why it's important to try to have some time before you sign to court the person, right? So date them, if you will. Take some time to see how it's going, and you'll really thank yourself for doing that. And remember that the manager really holds a lot of the cards. The management agreements are not set up to protect the artist, because again, they don't say the manager's going to make sure you get press reviews, right? And send out press releases and to show up to your shows and help with the merch table. It says none of that. The management agreements are really set up to protect managers. So that's why you have to negotiate them as best you can. And then for managers, okay, because I want to be fair for those of you that have held on, I understand there's a different side to this. We have artists who are total slackers that waste our time, that waste our money, and that is a whole other video that we'll have to do. And of course, if you are interested in kind of deep diving about management agreements further, I do have other videos on Top Music Attorney YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out. If you've enjoyed this, please be sure to like and subscribe.